The mothership has connected. Welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us on this Sunday evening. Man, I am so excited about tonight's show. First of all, I had a great weekend. We celebrated our anniversary. The Bourbon Bell and I hit 6 years yesterday. So we went out to the Hamptons this past weekend, took AJ out there, and celebrated all weekend long. Little beach, little cocktails, and got to see Jelly Roll perform, a very special Sirius XM performance that was put on. And I got to tell you the story about this. So we'll get to that coming up here, but I'm just having the best weekend ever. Now I get to wrap up the weekend here with this show. We have football right around the corner, another weekend of preseason games, and our guest. This is really special. It's special to me. It's special to Aiden. He's got deep ties to the city of Baltimore. You guys know that we do too, which is, you can see that right by this guy right next to me, which I'll explain here. But he is an entrepreneur. He is also a philanthropist. And if you are a golfer, you know how PXG has changed the game. We will be talking to CEO of PXG, Bob Parsons, coming up here in just 15 minutes as well. So that's incredibly exciting. And we want to also thank our new sponsor, Santo Blanco Tequila, who is going to be putting in a very cool investment into this show for football season. Every single one of our guests will receive a bottle of their own Santo Blanco Tequila. Santo saw what we were doing here on this show over the last 6 months. They said, we love the vibe. We see that it's positive. We know that you have loyalty aliens listening and watching. We want to be part of it. We said, well, we're going to blow it out for football season. You ready? And Santo was like, how can we be part of it? Every one of our guests is going to get a bottle, and you guys are going to compete for a bottle and their merch as well through our Survivor pool. So we will give you details on that as we creep closer to football season, but that means a whole hell of a lot. And you guys know already, Last Dive Bar, our really close friends, allies in the Bay Area, fighting the good fight about the Oakland A's relocation and trying to keep them there and rooted. And if they can't, they want to make sure the truth is told about A's fans. Last Dive Bar, as always, brings you incredible merchandise each and every week right here that you'll be competing for. So get in your golden grams now. Send us your photos, what you're doing as you watch the show on your smart speakers, or I should say on your laptops, on your phones, on your tablets. Send us your stuff at Damon Amendo on Twitter, at Damon Amendo on Instagram. Email us, watchdalive@gmail.com. Send us the photos of how you're enjoying your exhale cocktail this evening. We'll run those later on to the show and give away Last Dive Bar merch. And they got really cool stuff that they just debuted that they're sending us to send to you guys as winners, which I cannot wait to talk about and to show you. All right, that's the table set tonight. We've also got Sports Zen coming up a little bit later on to the show. But it's time to begin tonight's show with your Furious F5. And F1 brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that Pittsburghers are wringing their fingernails right now, wringing their knuckles and wondering, biting their fingernails. Oh, my God, what's going to happen to our offense? It's been puke for the last couple of seasons, end of Roethlisberger, and then the Kenny Pickett era, and now this. Can it get worse? And frankly, I can't tell you right now. There's tons of reasons for hope because both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have struggled in the early part of the preseason. But I will tell you this. There's no guarantees it's better or it's fixed, but I still believe this was a smart game plan by the Steelers front office. Russell Wilson has delusions, perhaps, but visions and delusions of winning still another Super Bowl or Super Bowls. Do I think he's going to do it? Probably not, but it tells me that all the things that Russell Wilson might have been in Denver and at the end in Seattle, maybe he's found some self-awareness and knows that he's got to fall into line, not be so egocentric, not maybe put other people over there and put him over here in a different box. Russ has not been effective so far. He might be washed, but if there is anything left in Russ, I think he's going to give it to the Steelers. My bigger hope, if I'm a Steelers fan, is certainly Justin Fields. Fields has the future. Fields might also have the present. And I think if I'm the Steelers, unless I see Fields really struggle to pick up the offense, I'm going to give him the football earlier rather than later. And I'm not so worried about starting the season with Russell Wilson. Both were very cheap investments. I thought it was two solid moves, one for the present, one for the future. But the future might have already arrived because neither one looks all that great right now, and there's concerns with the offense. Stop me when you've heard this before in Pittsburgh. Steelers fans are wondering, can we score any points? They had a deal for Brandon Ayuk. We don't know if that's going to end up going down. But for now, I would just say it's only the preseason. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I try not to in the preseason. But if you're a Steelers fan and wondering, did we fix anything? And the answer right now is, I don't blame you. Hasn't looked good. But if there is a solution, it's still going to be Justin Fields. All right, F2, as we get to the second story of the Furious Five, and that is Tom Brady. And, Brady, first of all, Aiden's headline here, has the student become the master? What does the fox say? That's pretty damn brilliant. Brady got into a little bit of hot water. Actually, I shouldn't say it's hot water, but he was pointed out, and there was some attention that came to him this weekend because he went out of his way to create a hypothetical and talking about how he would broadcast games and saying, let's say Daniel Jones throws an interception. Everybody laughed. And he tried to back off of it of the Fanatics thing. There was a big Fanatics fan fest this weekend saying, no, I didn't mean that he was definitely going to throw an interception. I was just trying to use an example. But then when pressed on whether he thinks Daniel Jones is a good quarterback, kind of was pretty non-committal. And I would tell Tom Brady this because I think we've all had the same concern. Brady's going to elevate to the number one broadcast team. Is he going to be critical? And he walked around how he's going to be critical by saying, hey, there are families watching. I don't know what the quarterback saw in that play. I can't speak to it. He hasn't even called a full regular season game yet, so I'm going to give it time. But Tom Brady can be really good at this if he's not worried about offending all of the families. And I know that's hard. Easier said than done, especially for me. If I go on the radio and I take the turrets out and we start going guns ablaze, guess what? I don't really worry because I'm not going to hear from their families, usually. He's far too close to that, so he's going to worry about that. But that's not how we're going to get the best Brady. Brady is analytic. Brady is a experienced reservoir of quarterback information, winning, assessment, strategy. This guy can bring us a lot, but he cannot worry about offending people. And if he thinks Daniel Jones stunk on a play, if he thinks that it's Jones's fault that there's a pick six the other way, he's got to be willing to let it rip. And if we get that, Brady, we will get a great broadcast from Fox. If we don't, it'll be milquetoast and vanilla and boring and bland, which is what many of our worries, including mine, have been when he was hired by Fox. He inched his foot into the water this weekend, and then he backed out. Don't be afraid, Tom. Don't be afraid. I wanted to bring up my time over the weekend in the Hamptons here for just a second before we get to our guest, because I mentioned I saw Jelly Roll perform, and Jelly Roll is this mountain of a man. All right, he's got to be 350 or so. He was certainly heavier previous than this. He's got all facial and neck tattoos, and you're like, wow, this guy's seen some things. And he's been to jail, and he got on stage and told the crowd, I am so blessed to be here and thankful to be here, and I can't believe I'm here based on how I grew up. He said, I grew up one of 5 children, the youngest of 5, and he said there was no stability in the house, and it was a white trash bash every single day. And he poked some fun at it, but he said, I never expected from where I was homeless, living in a van, to be here performing for you now. And his music is kind of a cross between country and rock and maybe a little bit of hip hop thrown in there as well. And I really didn't know Jelly Roll's full story, but he was so emotional about this opportunity and the Grammys that he's been nominated for that I really felt connected to him. And he said something that really resonated with me. One of his songs, the chorus, the hook was, it's okay not to be okay because it's going to be all right. I said, man, there's some wisdom in that. And I thought about my friend, Little Mo. And you guys know Mo because Mo was a caller and a listener to my show for many years as a young man in Baltimore. And he would call up the show as Mo in Baltimore, Little Mo, and he would just crack jokes with me all night long when I was doing the nights or the overnights on CBS Sports Radio. And he never let on that he was sick. I found out later that he had been stricken with cancer since the time that he was 6 months old, which is why he was blind. It had taken his eyesight at a very young age. And he was in and out of Johns Hopkins for his entire life until he was 13 or 14 years old. And ultimately he succumbed to it. But I'm deeply spiritually connected to Mo. And you guys know this because of how I've spoken about him on my show. And, having gone down to Baltimore to honor him when the streets were named after him around Camden Yards, and Mo Gabba Day at the Orioles game, and that MO is lit up in the Ravens end zone for Mo in Baltimore. I thought, man, that saying reminds me of Mo. It's okay not to be okay, but everything's going to be all right. And Mo was like that. Mo had all of these health issues, and Mo still found a way to giggle and laugh. And our guest tonight has roots in Baltimore and has a saying that in a lot of ways, happiness is a choice. And I think about that with Mo quite often because I always felt like he taught me the most important lesson of my life, which was you get to choose happy. It doesn't choose you. And he was the happiest dude that I knew. And yet he had all of these issues that so many of us would consider the worst thing that could ever happen to you. So when I heard Jelly Roll say this on stage over the weekend, and I thought about my friend Mo, and I knew that we were having our guest Bob on the show tonight, I was like, man, there's really a lot of wisdom in that, and I hope that you guys take that as well away from this show and tonight and the shows that we do moving forward, because you guys know that Mo is always with me. I've got a painting of Mo in my home studio, and I got my bobblehead here, and he's always with me, and he's always with all of us, and he's saying hello to all you guys. We talked about him last week as well. So Jelly Roll was phenomenal. He's got a great message, and I think it's really powerful for everybody to remember. It's okay not to be okay, but it's going to be all right. All right. We'll get to more football. I got to get my thoughts on the J.J. McCarthy injury coming up here. And I got to tell you about 15 years since my job in Boston at 98.5 The Sports Hub, because they celebrated 15 years this week. And, man, it went by in a blur, but I helped launch the station in 2009. And I wanted to talk about that because I did a video about that this week here on this channel. And a lot of you guys reached out to me about how much you enjoyed it and you didn't know maybe some of that part of my story. So we're going to talk about that as well a little bit later on. But first, before we get there, let's welcome on our next guest. He's a philanthropist. He's an entrepreneur, and he changed the game of golf. If you golf, you know PXG. If you know PXG, you know they changed the irons game. Let's give it up for Bob Parsons, everybody! We won't mention how much Bob is worth because we certainly wouldn't want to embarrass him, but there is a list of the wealthiest people on the planet, and he resides on it. So, how about that, Bob? You're making us feel important around here. How are you this evening?
Well, you are important, and I'm happy to be here with you.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much, Bob. Yeah, you have your background, your childhood was spent in Baltimore, in East Baltimore, and you're a huge sports fan. So give us your sports loyalties, because when you're growing up in Baltimore, there were no Ravens, but there were the Colts.
Well, I definitely was a Colt fan. Johnny Unitas, Alan Amici, even Buzz Nutter, the center, all the way. But when Colts moved to Indy, and we had the dry period, and then Cleveland moved to Baltimore, I became a Ravens fan. And if you think it's tough sometimes to be a Pittsburgh fan, those first number of years when the Ravens moved to Baltimore, I don't know. Tough to be a Ravens fan, but it's not anymore.
No, it's not. You guys have one of the most stable, professional, and competitive franchises in the NFL. your story is a really interesting one because you didn't come from any money. You might have it now, but at the beginning there wasn't a lot, and it was partially, if not entirely, because both of your parents were gamblers. They were in debt quite a bit. And I was wondering how you felt about sports gambling being legalized all over the country.
I'm fine with it. There's nothing wrong with gambling. It's just that you can't be doing it every waking moment of your day, especially if you're making lower blue collar wages because you're going to be broke, and especially if you got a larger family to take care of, then it's an issue. But in most cases, it's not an issue, and so I don't see anything wrong with it.
How tough was it when it was really tough when you were growing up?
Sometimes there wouldn't be enough to eat. Sometimes, there never was, decent clothes. I always looked like a little ragamuffin. And, it just was tough. And I mean, and see, I was never physically abused, but I was neglected. So, I mean, my parents just pretty much let me do what the hell I wanted to do most of the time. And, and that I think is difficult. And so when I grew up, I never really had any role models. And so now I just try to be a role model.
Well, a lot of your life is philanthropy and giving back and dedicating a lot of your wealth to those that are underserved. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, you and your wife, Renee, have dedicated your life to that as well. And that is putting a huge portion of your fortune to those that are less fortunate, charitable endeavors. When you do that, when you connect with those types of people that are less fortunate, do you have a lot of emotions that kind of come back or memories that come back from the way that you grew up?
Oh, absolutely. Especially the kids. It's really rewarding thing to kind of take some of the misery out of their life and put them on the uptick. And we do that as often as we can. We move right now about $1 million to charity every 14 days. And back when I was a kid, if you told me I was going to be doing that one day, I'd have to tell my little brother, I think this guy's
high. I have a real affection for the city of Baltimore. As I just mentioned at the outset, my friend Little Mo is there, and his family is still there, and his mother Sanzi is still there. I think there's such a soul about the city. There's a blue-collar work ethic. There's a family atmosphere around, if you're from there, we got your back. And the dedication of sports is something that runs through everybody. How do you feel about the city of Baltimore just in terms of, your loyalty to those teams and the type of city that it is?
Well, the city of Baltimore is a pretty special place to me. And, I went to college at the University of Baltimore. And, it is not exactly an elite college, but, it's a good college, a great college. And, I go back there every now and then. I pay for tuition of a number of kids and inner city kids, and it's just good to go back and see them. We also have a Bob Parsons Veteran Center, and the fact that I got a Veteran Center is another hilarious. I'll tell you a little story. First night in Vietnam, I see my first firefight, see my first combat, and the only thing I shot that night was a snake. And we're walking across these rice paddies, and this big red snake was swimming towards me. And I thought, surely this thing's going to go left or right. And it didn't. It went right towards me. And when it was about 3 feet away, I put my rifle on automatic and sent it to snake heaven. I got all the water out of that nasty, nasty ass water out of my eyes. That it was. It just comes up when water hits the rice paddy. I looked around, and all the guys were gone. Well, they were all underwater when the gunfire started. And so the squad leader told me that night, next time, don't shoot the snake. So that's my first counseling. And then the it was about, I'd say, a couple of weeks later, we're in the firefight combat, and killed some NVA, and I decided to throw a hand grenade, and I was just a little 18-year-old skinny kid, never had much practice at that, and I didn't really throw it as far as I should have, but it landed on the other side of a rice paddy dike away from us and exploded, and luckily the explosion was away from us, scared the shit out of everybody, so I wasn't allowed to throw hand grenades. Right? So now I got a veteran center.
How about that? You didn't think that would happen back then. That's amazing. These are the types of stories that you have in your book, Fire in the Hole. And I didn't even mention this at the outset, but yes, you served in Vietnam and you were decorated as you departed there. You were injured there and you earned a Purple Heart. What was the story behind earning the Purple Heart in Vietnam?
Well, earning a Purple Heart isn't like earning magna cum laude. What I did to earn a Purple Heart is I hit a tripwire, and it was a North Vietnamese hand grenade on the other end. That thing exploded. I caught a lot of shrapnel on my legs and my elbow, and I was pretty much out of the war after that. So I mean, that's what happened.
Incredible. And so you come back to the States and you begin the cycle of getting your education, then turning it into an entrepreneur life. And maybe the most massive first big part of your life that our audience would recognize is that you founded GoDaddy. And GoDaddy ends up being a huge part of sports fans' lives, specifically football fans' lives, because of how innovative the commercials were during the Super Bowl. It put GoDaddy in people's minds that had never considered buying a domain, selling a domain, etc. Why was it important in your mind to make sure you spent the money to get the word out at the Super Bowl and push the envelope with the creativity of your messaging?
Well, we had to, because we were entering a market that already had a number of large companies. Network Solutions was one. They were the tall hog at the trough at the time. And when we entered that market, we were selling the same thing they were. The only difference is we were selling it for a lower price, and domain names are the same no matter who sells them. It's like milk, or it's your bread, maybe in some cases. It's a commodity. So, and the other thing is they're about as exciting as a cup of sawdust. So what we did is we made them exciting with the commercials, and that resonated because we were also taking care of business. We had the best service of anybody. All of my competitors either had fax that, you went to for service. You had to figure out what the hell you needed to do, or you had to talk to somebody out of the country that didn't really speak English. We had all our service here in Arizona, and they were all English-speaking Americans, and people just loved it. And so those all that stuff resonated, and we took off. When we did our first Super Bowl commercial, we pulled even with Network Solutions, and 18 months later, we doubled them. And I can also tell you that when I left the company, we had about a 75% market share.
That is incredible. Yeah. That is incredible. I mean, and I can be a firsthand account of having bought domains through GoDaddy and how it was such a much better experience than the other places that you would go to do so. And Danica Patrick was one of the faces of your company during those commercials and during that era. And she writes one of the reviews of the book, and she says you guys have a really close relationship, and that one of the things that is special about your relationship is that you would both probably refrain to the other person as the reason for your success. What did Danica give you on your end, and how did that relationship begin and kind of blossom?
Well, what happened was when we decided to do this Super Bowl commercial, and the first Super Bowl commercial, Danica wasn't in. When we did that, we decided we needed a spokesperson, and I had just been up in Alaska on a trip out in the bush. I was hunting, and I talk to the guides, and the guides lived in the middle of nowhere. I mean, in the middle of nowhere. And they were talking about this young girl that led the Indy 500. And I happened to be watching the race. Her name was Danica Patrick, and how impressed they were. And I thought, if these guys knew Danica, she's going to be a great commodity because, she was beautiful. She was brilliant. She was a fierce competitor, right? And, and everybody loves somebody like that. And so anyhow, we signed her as a sponsor. And so, as the years went by, I would go on these long motorcycle trips because I love motorcycles. So I still sell motorcycles. And so we go on these trips, and I stop in a filling station, and there's nothing that is more, a gathering of cross section of, Americans than a gas station, because everybody has to buy it. So I would ask people if they ever heard of GoDaddy, and they'd say, yeah, Danica Patrick. And then sometimes I'd ask them if they ever heard of Danica Patrick. They'd say, yeah, GoDaddy. And I knew that we were both really promoting each other. And so that's how it, resolved, and worked great for both of us. We're still dear friends to this day.
That is really cool. And I know that it's cool because Rosie the cat just jumped up on my lap as you were telling that story. So it resonated with Rosie as well. Danica Patrick, GoDaddy, and the synergy there, which is really awesome.
I've seen that tail go up, and I thought he must have his zipper down.
That's incredible. So the book is Fire in the Hole, and that's available for you guys to see Bob's backstory and all these tremendous stories that he has with famous people and friends, etc. But if you're a golfer, and we have so many golfers that listen and watch the show as well, you guys know that PXG has kind of changed the game. A little over a decade ago, they introduced the irons that would kind of change how irons were, I think, thought of and used and considered. So what was it about the irons back in 2013 that you felt was ripe for innovation?
Well, I always thought that, I was always a golfer, starting when I was in my young 30s. And I would never practice much at all. And so what I would do is, when I started making some money, me and also being a lazy ass, I would take and buy whatever new clubs came out. I have friends buy exotic cars. Other friends go to Vegas and get comped and this. Not me. I bought clubs. And so I would always look for something that would help my game. Once in a while, I'd find it a little bit, but I always thought they were really lacking, So I thought, if I had the right engineers, and with, what I do know about, ballistics and metallurgy and, that sort of aerodynamics, I might be able to help, develop them right with them. And I did. And so I started my own company. And before that, I talked to one of the engineers at Ping, who later became one of my lead engineer, Mike Nicolette. And I said, Mike, how come the clubs don't get better every year? And he said, the reason they don't get better as much as you think is, we have price points we got to hit, and we have deadlines we got to meet, and, we do the best we can. And I said, suppose you could spend whatever you wanted to, and you could take as much time as you needed. Would that make a difference? He said, man, I'd like to think it would. So anyhow, I hired him and another couple guys from Ping, and we honored their non-compete, which is in Arizona. It's one of the one places in the world where a non-compete is enforceable. So after we did that, we did these clubs where we had developed them, and inside the club we put a polymer, elastic polymer. And we made the face a little bit on the thin side, and the rest was history. It's the biggest advance since cavity backs. And people would hit these, and they could not believe it. First, the club would go further than they thought. It would go further, would go higher. It would be more accurate and look sexier. and had a sweet spot the size of Texas. And baby, we were on our way.
It's incredible.
So I got to tell you about our latest irons.
Yeah.
Our latest irons are, we call them the Black Ops irons. And the Black Ops irons, they are the ones on the right there, the far right, are they, the face is the thinnest in golf. It is 51 thousandths of an inch. The closest our competitors come is 91 thousandths of an inch. We have a power channel around the face on the inside that helps the clubs release. I mean, so when it hits the ball, it deforms a little bit, and then this polymer pushes it out, and it launches the ball, and it keeps it accurate. And we got this new elastomer called Quantum, our Quantum Core elastomer, and that stuff is like magic. And so this thing is just a dream. And the only thing wrong with these irons is they're $149. So now, for people that have, because I believe in helping everybody, if the people say, I don't like the fact that they're only $149, that's okay. I've got another iron that I'll sell them for $219. And that's called our Gen 7 irons, and I don't take care of business.
So there's the Gen 7s, there's the Black Ops. They have different price points, but they're both incredible innovations that happen to the irons. I think it's really awesome that, a lot of people just have felt like we've needed this advance in golf for a long, long time. And you guys came along and you said, like, let's just try it. What's it going to take to make that happen? So I think that's really phenomenal. And one of the other big ideas you had that I think was really cool is that you opened up the Harley Davidson store in Scottsdale, and it was 2 stories. And in it, it's not just 2 stories, but there's a theater. Is there a barber, a tattoo artist as well? I mean, you guys basically made the Harley Disney World.
Yeah, it's a barber shop. It's a barber shop. It'll give you a shave. It's an old-fashioned one,
Uh-huh.
And it is a tattoo piercing studio with a private room in case, depending upon which, not everything that people want tattooed should be shown in the open public while it's getting done. So we got that. We got a lingerie boutique. We have a wedding chapel. And I signed up with United Church of God, and I became a minister for $6. And so I can marry people.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah, come on down. I mean, if you want, maybe you can let somebody win a 5th of tequila and a free wedding at Harley Davidson in Scottsdale.
There you go. Okay, everybody. If you're looking for a really fun, unique way to get married, Harley Davidson in Scottsdale. Bob's going to be there. He'll be your officiant, and you're good to go. He is licensed and everything like that. That is fantastic. Speaking of Arizona, you purchased a piece of property in Glendale next to the arena. We just saw the Coyotes move to Utah, and now Utah has a hockey team. What can you tell us about the future of hockey in Arizona? Do you think it's ever going to come back?
Well, I won't have anything to do with it if it does. I'll just, I'm not against hockey, but Arizona's pretty warm, pretty warm place. The last thing you think about is skating around on ice. So, I just probably, it might, never's a long time. But I don't know where they put it, and what they do, and so forth. I know my friend Rick Smith is the guy that bought the team, and that's up in Salt Lake City, and he's going to be one hell of an owner.
Have you ever thought about owning a franchise?
McDonald's franchise.
Not a sports franchise, huh?
We're not talking about that, are we? They got those little rub-offs. Kind of like a sport.
Yeah, the Monopoly game. I guess if you're playing McDonald's Monopoly, then you're a sports owner. Okay.
No, I'm only teasing. There was a time when I did the deal for GoDaddy, right? I made its first payment was $2.3 billion. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you, DA. 2.3 billion is a stack of cash. And back then that was in the range where, you could probably buy a pretty good part of a sports franchise. And I actually thought that at that time that I might do that. And that was at the time that right after the second year that Cleveland, didn't win a game.
Okay, yeah, they own 16.
You remember that the long sad spell?
Sure do, yeah.
And so I thought that'd be a perfect team for me to own. I'd turn that baby right around, on a like a Marine Corps drill field. And so I looked at that and I said, I'll either do that or I'll own I'd like to buy a golf club. And I wound up buying this little golf club in northern Arizona called the Golf Club Scottsdale. And I bought it. It's a big story of how that happened. Funny as shit, the whole thing is. And it's, it's in the book. And right now it is one of the premier golf courses in the world. It's 730 acres. I have 3 courses. One is a 9-hole. And, so people would be interested in playing it. We gave it a pretty good theme. We made it the toughest golf course there is to play anywhere. I mean, it is totally unfair everywhere. Guys line up with cocktails to get their asses kicked, laugh themselves silly, and play it all day.
Sorry, Browns fans, you got Jimmy Haslam instead. And now Scottsdale has a premier golf course because of Bob Parsons. That's amazing. And again, Fox, or I should say Fire in the Hole, is the book that Bob's talking about, which is available right now. All of his great stories from his life and business and everything else. Before I let you go, Bob, you said you're a Baltimore fan. You grew up in Baltimore. And so you're pulling for the Ravens. You're pulling for the Orioles. Who else do you pull for in sports?
Well, I also pull for, I also... I also pull for the Raiders. I got a skybox up there. We go up there for most games. And I have a number of dear friends who live in Pittsburgh. And they always call me whenever the Ravens and the Steelers play. And that's every year twice, right? And so what I do is when that happens, I root for whoever's playing. Well, at that time, it's the Ravens, but also on the other occasions, whoever's playing Pittsburgh.
Okay, so you got your teams there. It's the Ravens, sometimes the Raiders, and whoever's playing the Steelers. Then that's your teams.
Yeah. And by the way, I watched an exhibition game yesterday with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I also watched the Cardinals here in Phoenix. I mean, I'll tell you what, they do very well with him. So I'm pretty sure they pick him up in a flash.
Oh, you think the Cardinals would? You think they dump Kyler Murray tomorrow?
I like this kid Fields. I mean, he showed me something, and what he's got a lot of spunk, a lot of speed. He needs to be coached.
I think you're right. I think Justin Fields, if there's ever going to be a solution for the Steelers, he's going to be it. And
I'll tell you what, and your head coach is one of the best in football.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin's one of the best, no doubt. You guys got a good one there in Harbaugh as well in Baltimore. It always seems to come down to Ravens and Steelers with some type of bloodbath in the division. Although the Bengals will have a say in that division this year as well. You better watch out for the Bengals this year with your Ravens.
I've heard that every year for the last 5 years about and so far, that line has got no teeth.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Bob. This was so much fun. I think during football season, come on again, and we'll talk a little Raiders and Ravens with you, okay?
All right, I'm in.
All right, that is awesome. The book is
fire. Can I lift this book?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
Fire in the Hole, baby.
And that's available everywhere right now, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's so cool. And I mean, the types of friends that you have that wrote nice things about this book is pretty amazing. I mean, Jada Pinkett Smith. I mentioned Danica Patrick. The list goes on and on and on. You must have to pinch yourself sometimes thinking about where you were as a poor kid in East Baltimore growing up to now, rubbing elbows with these types of celebrities. That's just got to be mind-blowing to you.
Well, I love it because they're dear friends. But to me, I'm still the guy who grew up in Baltimore. I'm still the guy that shot a snake the first night during the Vietnam War, wasn't allowed to throw hand grenades. When I said, well, do I still have to carry them? They said, yeah, you just give them to somebody else. I said, suppose we're being overrun. They said, then you can throw them.
Yeah, you never lost your sense of humor. You never lost that self-deprecating sense of humor. And I think that's why you have so many people that gravitate to you because, you get to a certain level of success and people expect you to think that, you know everything and that there's a certain arrogance and, I'm over here, you're over there. But you never lost just being a regular guy. So I think it's very magnetic for a lot of people.
No, I'm still an East Baltimore knucklehead. And I always will be.
Proudly, right? Proudly in East Baltimore.
Man, yeah.
Bob Parsons, our guest tonight here on the show. Check out his book, Fire in the Hole, available everywhere that you get your books, including Amazon. And as he mentioned, he's now got the Gen 7 irons from PXG and the Black Ops irons as well. The Black Ops irons are a pretty nice price point for you. So you check those out. All available on PXG's website and everywhere the PXGs are sold as well. Bob, this was awesome. Thanks so much. Say hi to the family for us, and we'll have to connect again during football season.
Well, I'll tell you what, brother, I enjoyed it. You do a hell of a job.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that very much. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Bye now.
Okay. Bob Parsons joining us tonight here on the show. Bob made his fortune creating and selling GoDaddy and then kept spinning that into other ventures. And there he is, a proud East Baltimore knucklehead. How great is that? How great is that? See, it goes to show you no matter how wealthy or how powerful or how famous you are, you can always still have the sense of self and who you are. And that's the most important thing. You never lose that and you never lose sight of what's really important. That was awesome. And Bob joined us live in the show. That's really cool as well. So there you go. Gotta love it. All right. Next up here for tonight's Watch DA Live is our friends at Last Dive Bar. They've got some new t-shirts because they are commemorating the final Battle of the Bay era between the Giants and the A's. And you know that Last Dive Bar is our official sponsor. They bring us all this great merchandise and we send it out to you guys as winners for Q&DA and winners of Golden Grams. And they've just got some really, really cool stuff. And Last Dive Bar is, celebrating the Oakland roots. They are celebrating the loyalty to the A's. They've got these great hoodies. They've got these great concepts, but they also now have the final ever Battle of the Bay. And how crazy is it to think that the Giants and A's will no longer play when there is a Bay Bridge between them? Instead, you're only going to have Sacramento versus San Francisco, or maybe ultimately Las Vegas versus San Francisco. But it will not be the same. And we know that Last Dive Bar has been all over this saga from day one. And when they heard that I was banging the drum for people to wake up and realize that, it's not A's fans' fault at Oakland. It's the fault of John Fisher and A's deplorable ownership. Last Dive Bar was like, we want to be on board with that messaging. We want to be on board with DA, whatever you guys are doing, we want to be part of it. And so Last Dive Bar just keeps sending us cool stuff. And so this is one of the things that I got that I'm enjoying this summer, the Last Dive Bar delicious frosty mug or pint glass. This one's the pint glass, but I got the frosty mug as well right over here to the side. And they're baseball people, the Bay Area natives, and they love their sports. They love their A's. And so salute. We know that at the moment it looks like it's coming to an end in a little over a month, but there's never enough time with your team if you're going through impending relocation. It always feels like the clock is sped up. All right. I mean, we were just talking to Bob Parsons, who grew up with the Baltimore Colts. Can you imagine how it felt for Bob and other Baltimoreans when they lose the Colts in 1982, 1983 under the cover of winter and the Mayflower trucks in the snow? So we feel for you guys, and we're here to support you. And remember that if you use the code MOTHERSHIP, you get 15% off your order at lastdivebar.com. That's 15% off your order at lastdivebar.com. And I think at some point tonight, Aiden might also have the photos of some of the new stuff that they got going on with it, which is the new Battle of the Bay or Bay Area Giants and A's stuff that's kind of like retro too. So that stuff is available on the website. And we should be getting some of those T-shirts as well to be sending out to you guys as winners down the road. So keep an eye out for that. But if you want to check those out on their website, lastdivebar.com, go there right now and use the code MOTHERSHIP for 15% off your order. Love it. All right. All right, next up, I wanted to just go back over a little 98.5 The Sports Hub memories because I celebrated alongside the rest of the Boston sports fans that enjoy that radio station a 15-year anniversary. I was there at the very beginning at 98.5, and the reason this is significant is because 98.5 was launched in August of 2009, and almost overnight became one of the most popular and successful sports radio stations in America. And today, they're not only the highest rated sports radio station in America, they do numbers that are unheard of anywhere else, but they are one of the greatest success stories in sports media history. And I'm so proud to have been a small part of it 15 years ago. And one of the stories that I told this week as part of our video, my video about this, was that 15 years ago, I was spinning my wheels. I was working in Miami, and I was doing nights at WQAM in Miami on 560 AM. And Miami sports was in the tank. The Dolphins were coming off 1-15. That was the Cam Cameron year. Yikes. The Hurricanes were in the middle of total mediocrity under Randy Shannon. The Panthers were an absolute disaster. Forget winning the Stanley Cup. Even the Heat, they had Dwayne Wade, but it was such a rotten year. That was the season that they ended up drafting number 2 overall and getting Michael Beasley. And the Marlins are an afterthought nobody cares about anyway. So I was stuck in one of the worst sports markets and one of the worst sports years ever. And at night, 5:60 a.m. here in the States, based out of Dade County in Miami in South Florida, had to power down at night when sundown went down. Well, they didn't have to power down in Cuba, which is 90 miles off the coast of Miami. And so at night during my show, after we power down after sunset, you would hear Cuban state radio on top of my show. Most places in South Florida, you would hear them instead of me at night. My ratings were absolute garbage. And to combine all of this with even another pull the rug out from under you, I got hired in January of 08. Really, I was hired late 07, but I began in January of 08. In 08, the housing market crashed. And by the end of 08, I was there a year, and they eliminated the night show position as a salaried position. And so there I was left basically having a hustle saying, I'll still do the show, but I'm a part-time shift guy now, like $100 a shift or something. So I got to work 6 days a week. I got no insurance. I got no benefits. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? Because I uprooted my life to come down to Miami. And now, after a year, like I can barely make ends meet. I had to go to my landlord and tell him that I can't make rent anymore. He thankfully dropped the rent for me, but it was tough times. And that summer of 09 is when they launched 98.5 The Sports Hub. I was on the radar of CBS radio executives because I had gone back home during summers and holidays to do some part-time work, fill in stuff at WFAN in New York, which was a CBS radio station. They knew me from there, and they said, we think you'd be a good fit in Boston. I got the job on a Wednesday, and they were flipping the radio station and starting it the following Thursday. So I had to walk into my boss's office on a Thursday morning in Miami after I got this job offer on a Wednesday night and say, I'm out of here. I'll give you today and tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, but I'm out of here starting Saturday because I'm on the air in Boston a week from today. And had they not eliminated my position, so I was no longer under contract, I might not have been able to take that 98.5 The Sports Hub job. And that job changed my life. It changed my career, changed my career trajectory, because I went from, what the hell am I going to do? I'm getting no numbers in Miami. Nobody can hear me because they're state radio, and nobody cares enough because all these teams suck. What am I going to do here? To helping launch what now is, 15 years later, the single most profitable, successful sports radio station in America. I mean, it's unbelievable. It was unbelievable, the twist of fate. And so the lesson is that you never know how the universe conspires on your behalf, but it does. You can't see it when it happens, but down the road, you'll see it. And I'm a living example of this. So props to 15 years of impeccable radio in Boston. They were visionaries. They knew what made great radio. They knew that this was the future. Get it on FM, put it on FM, make it clear, make it sound good, make it innovative, make it accessible. The traditional sports radio station in Boston, WEEI, talked down to hockey fans. How dare you call? We're not talking Bruins today. And my boss has said, talk Bruins. Definitely. If that's what they want to talk about, talk Bruins. So we did. And 2 years later, the Bruins won the Stanley Cup. You think that was beneficial? It was an amazing, amazing time to be there. And I was only there for less than 4 years. But they're still cooking, man, better than ever before. So that was really cool to see them celebrate 15 years, and really happy that I was a small part of it. And I know I've been hard on the Patriots and Bostonians and Boston fans over my years because of all the gloating and all of the winning and all of the puffed out chests. But I do all of that with a dollop of tongue in cheek, and because I love tweaking, because I love poking and prodding. But I have a lot of love for the city of Boston. I think it's an amazing, amazing town, and I owe a lot of my career to that turnaround right there, that flip. In August of 2009, 1 week apart, my life completely changed, and much for the better. So that was really cool this week. I mentioned J.J. McCarthy's injury earlier, and I just wanted to touch on this. I don't think it changes the outlook of the Vikings at all. I saw that Vegas has their win total at 7.5. I took the under as soon as the J.J. McCarthy injury hit. If I played it before the injury, I still would have taken the under. I probably would not have played it, but I do not think that Sam Darnold's going to get you 8 wins. I don't think that it changes much of your overall outlook. I just think it's a bummer because J.J. McCarthy, who threw so few passes last year, would have really benefited from a full year as a rookie, even to watch and learn. And I assume that he would have gotten in there at some point this season. But I think he really would have benefited from being able to take reps in practice, be on the sidelines, watching, reacting, learning, and then piecing it together in film study during the week. And I know that they say, well, he'll just have to crush it in the film room and crush it in the study room. And that's true, but I don't think there's nearly as much as you can get when you are sidelined with a torn meniscus and you can't physically go through your progressions. It's only mental. So that's a bummer. It almost makes next season his real rookie season. So it sets the clock back a full year in that way. It doesn't change the Vikings outlook for me, but it does change what McCarthy can be, how quickly he can be that, considering he was kind of, I don't want to say underutilized because they won the national championship last year, but in terms of, let's just say, miles driven, passes thrown, hours, of practice, kind of like the Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours. He needs hours, and he's not going to get them this year physically, and that's a bummer. Finally, let's talk a little Hawk Tua, shall we? Because Hawk Tua girl threw out the first pitch at Citi Field for the Mets the other day. And I was surprised. Again, Aiden's headlines tonight are phenomenal. Really. That's all I can say. Teacher has become the student has become the teacher. I was surprised my buddies were offended by this. And I'm like, really? You guys are some of the filthiest, dirtiest, knuckle draggers I know. That's why you're my friends. Offended? And there was something about first pitch that a lot of people took poorly. And I think the Mets have heard a lot of negative reaction from season ticket holders. It was also camp day. Not the best timing. Who decides that? But this is why I bring this up. I wasn't necessarily offended. I mean, hard to offend me. But unless it's a terrible New Jersey, then I'm truly offended. But I think this was a case where Mets, whoever this is that books this, is this PR, is this their social media team? The first pitch people are like promotions department. I think this is a case of a month ago, this sounded awesome. Oh my God, we get the Hawk Tua girl to throw out the first pitch. And a month later, the coolness of Hawk Tua has kind of worn off. And now it's just like, oh, that's not even that cool to have her throw out the first pitch anymore. Now people are focusing on that it's kind of like an old joke. And do we really need this? The buzz is gone. And I believe in this a lot when it comes to jersey redesigns and stuff in sports where true sports people don't make the decisions. It's people looking for pizzazz and headlines, notoriety, or clicks. They're not in it for the right causes, and then they miss the boat. They miss the timing. This just felt like the ship of that being really cool and fun was a month and a half ago, and now it's old. It's old news, and they just missed the timing of it. They missed the window. And now old guys are going to be curmudgeons about it, and sorry, you lose. I mean, is it any worse than having 50 Cent throw out the first pitch? I don't really necessarily think so. But if the joke's stale, doesn't seem that cool anymore, does it? All right. Let us bring you your Golden Grams today. This is going to be courtesy of Aiden Hatton, our Marquette Marvel, who's going to bring us some photos of what you guys are doing as you watch the show. Aiden, feel free to hop on and let us know what we are going to be seeing here, my friend, because I do not know where you're going on these.
Well, let's start first and foremost with our Golden Grams that we actually missed last week, and there was a huge string of them that I want to get to. And
cool.
huge shout out to people that sent them in today around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Hey, I want to get ahead of it. I want to be in tonight's show. But before we get there, shout out to our good friend Wallace, and he wrote, noshing on some of these bad boys listening to the show last week. Those look like Bucky Beaver Nuggets, DA. Is that right?
Bucky's is an iconic truck stop in the Southeast in Texas, and it's more like a mall than a truck stop. It's really I guess they don't even allow trucks. I'm learning this. I learned this on the fly talking about Bucky's a couple of months ago, I think, on the radio show. But yeah, Beaver Nuggets. I've never had their Beaver Nuggets, but the Bucky Beaver is their mascot, and they just sell everything. Like there's a toy department at this gas station. There is they have barbecue brisket being freshly carved. They have all types of candies and ice creams, and their bathrooms, Aiden, are best known for roadside travelers because they have like framed artwork in them, and they're known as the cleanest bathrooms of any gas station in America. So I like that. Crushing some Beaver Nuggets as you watch DA live. That's a good play.
That's right. So we always love Wallace and whatever we're eating or drinking. And that segues right into our next one, which comes from Stephen Murray. What's he drinking? Well, he says he grabbed this Arizona from Bob's Bar 2023. It's still good, right?
No.
Soon enough.
No. He held on to Bob's Bar's Arizona Hard Iced Tea.
He emailed
2
me
years
this
ago
today, DA. So I can't call him a liar. He's one of our favorite D-aliens, and he's done some production work for us. Are you spotting the lie here, as you would say on the DA show with Babchick?
I don't know if this is a lie. Stephen Murray might have held on to this as a keepsake. It does not surprise me at all that he has a Skeletor poster or something pin up or print in his room or in his home. Doesn't surprise me at all. So I kind of believe it, but I remember Arizona did bring over a bunch of hard iced teas. I didn't have any of those, but that is incredible. If Steve Murray still has a hard iced tea from 2 years ago at Bob's Bar. Wow.
And we're just going to keep the XL cocktail train rolling. Squishy Liquid chimed in today at Damon Amendo at Aiden T. Hatton. Starting a little early, fellas, capping off a great weekend that included a free concert by rap legend Rakim. How about that?
Oh, my God. Squishy Liquid. That is awesome. I have oftentimes thought if I was ever asked on the spot who the Mount Rushmore of rappers were or top 5 rappers, I would have to find a way to get Rakim in there. I think Rakim is, yes, one of the great lyricists of all time. I love that you went to see him. I encourage anybody that's into hip hop that might not know his catalog or maybe 80s rap to go back and listen to Eric B. and Rakim and just listen to how he attacked the mic, because nobody really quite did it the way that he did it. Run DMC back in the mid 80s definitely was aggressive and stylistic, etc. But I think Rakim's lyrics were modern day. They were ahead of their time. They were like lyrics that you would get from Jay-Z 20 years later, or that you would get from some of the more polished lyricists later on. But it was happening in the 80s. So rap had not evolved that much by then when he was doing it, and he really pushed it forward. So I am a huge Rakim fan. That is a very, very cool concert to go see.
Maybe that's for another episode of Watch DA Live. DA's Mount Rushmore of rappers. We'll schedule that for later on.
Yeah, totally.
And we did a little XL cocktails, as we mentioned, but I couldn't leave out this food one as well, because we love what you're drinking and also eating. And our gal Fieri of the show, Kristen in Buffalo, wrote in last week, for tonight's Golden Grams, can I get a happy birthday for the top OG D-Alien in my life, Mr. Kristen in Buffalo, hashtag with bacon, hashtag watch DA Live. Those are pancakes with bacon.
Oh, with bacon. That is amazing. I love that Kristen's husband is now known as Mr. Kristen in Buffalo. Kristen in Buffalo's husband was the one that turned her on to the show, and now, she's Gal Fieri. Now she is the captain of the team. Now she is our football food of the week chef. So she has become hardcore one of the most important people in the D-Alien world. So that is awesome. Happy birthday. And I believe that her husband is both lactose-free or dairy-free and gluten-free. And so she's got to get real creative. I think he's gluten-free, which means those pancakes look really good for gluten-free pancakes. That's how you know Kristen is a legit chef. She can make gluten-free stuff look really good.
When the defense is pinned against you, and if you don't want to go against the 2-3 zone, but you're playing Syracuse the next game, you got to find a way to figure it out.
That's
and
right.
She finds ways to figure it out.
Survive in advance. That's Kristen in Buffalo's culinary philosophy.
And there were a lot of survivors and advancers in the tournament that our friend Jason checked in with. Still thinking about Raft Off yesterday. Can't wait to get back here. And we highlighted Jason from Michigan a couple weeks ago. He's a big Raft Off guy, and there were certainly some winners at Raft Off. But that is just an awesome picture of, oh man, where did it go? There it is. They got some party boats there, some people just in the water, and that's how you spend a summer day.
Man, could you imagine being on the water? Like, that's a sports zen thing for me right there. He's in Wisconsin, right, or Michigan. So he's either in a lake in Michigan or the Lake Michigan or one of the Great Lakes. And you got all these cool boats. They're all close together. You're playing music. You're throwing down some beverages. You're getting some sun. Oh, man, that right there is everything. So well done, Jason. That looks like a hell of a day. And I know the good people of the upper Midwest know how to party, especially in the summer, because the summer is brief like it is here in the Northeast. So you got to get everything, every last minute in and make the most of it. So that is awesome. I would love to be there. One day I will make Raft Off. That is a bucket list item. Speaking of making everything count in the summer, Aiden is down in Baltimore tonight. He was down there this weekend. And one of our listeners said, It looks like it's laundry day for you, Aiden. Is that where are you staying right now? Looks like you got some swim trunks and towels hung up behind you.
Yes, I'm adding fuel to the fire of, and forgive me, I'm missing the name of the swath of the aliens that comment that the Market Marvel is somewhere different every week and every show. That might be true because I'm staying at my brother's place in Baltimore, the lovely Charm City. I have a couple pics to show later, and you've got your little Mo bobblehead right next to you. And Bob was from Baltimore, and it just seems like a really Charm City centric show tonight. But yes, as far as the you're getting the whole picture here on Watch Day Live. That's why we put the live in Watch Day Live. And yes, it's my brother's bedroom, and he's letting me stay, so his towels are getting some camera time here.
Love it. So, okay, you want to do your Baltimore breakdown after Q&A?
Let's get through one more Golden Graham, and I just have to polish it off with Denisio, who wrote in via email, was working the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift at work. Top flight security of the world. This is in Jersey City, okay?
Wow.
And look at that setup where they got all the screens going, and then right smack dab in the middle is our show.
Wow. So if you were trying to take over that lobby or that building, you would definitely be able to do that because Denisio right now is watching Watch the 8 live. That is incredible. Wow. Look at all the screens. Look at all those security cameras. That is a hell of a setup. I mean, that looks like a very nice hotel, a very nice building. It looks like probably very famous or important people go there. And Denisio has nothing to really worry about. He just gets to chill out and check out Kristen and Buffalo's husband's gluten-free pecan pancakes. Yeah. So that's a good Sunday night for you.
That's a great Sunday night. And I wanted to save the best for last there with Denisio on our Golden Grams this evening. But
okay, yeah, with that, should we give Denisio a t-shirt?
Absolutely. I was just going to say Denisio should absolutely be one of the winners. We've already been exchanging emails to get that picture on the air tonight. So Denisio, I will be in touch, my friend.
Man, the aliens are the best. I mean, really, that is hysterical. Now you'll always remember where you were when you saw the security guard at a top flight hotel watching Watch DA live. He was on the clock. Good way to get paid. Good way to
Denisio, I'm not rooting against you in our Santo Survivor pool that's coming in the next few weeks for our NFL friends, but I don't think that you should have our lovely bottle of Santo Tequila with you at work as well.
Yeah.
Because you're in such a high security type job.
Keep it on. Yeah, keep it at home. Keep it at home.
Yeah, so let's keep it PG there on that front. And as far as speaking of keeping it PG, maybe 13. Yes, my brother's birthday was last week, and my brother went to Loyola, Maryland, which is why I'm wearing the shirt tonight. Cool. Go Greyhounds. And I hadn't come down to visit in a while, and was feeling adventurous the summer, last few weeks of the summer before things get busy in the fall and football season and all that. So I figured good time to come down. And my Boston Red Sox were in town this weekend, Camden Yards. So it just felt like what a better gift than to come down and make a trip to the Charm City. So we went to Camden Yards on Friday night for Red Sox Orioles. It was a beautiful night. And I want to show this picture as well because this is at Pickles Pub pregame before first pitch. It is, as my brother's friends have been telling me, you're checking all the tourism boxes in Baltimore, and I've only been here for 2 or 3 days. So Pickles Pub, you see right there, Orange Crushes, and that cup says, "We crush it for you, Baltimore." And if you were at Bob's Bar 2023, just like Stephen Murray, there were handmade Orange Crushes there as well. I wasn't able to taste one there on Long Island, but that Orange Crush on Friday was damn good. So that's serving as my exhale cocktail of the week.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, the Orange Crushes that were made at Bob's Bar 2 years ago were delicious. I forget what was in those. You could look that up, obviously, but maybe we'll have to make a Santo Tequila Orange Crush for football season. We're going to cook through a couple of recipes with the Santo Blanco as we make our way through football season, since they're going to be one of our sponsors. And we might have to make an Orange Crush because it was really good. And it put some hair on my chest, too, that morning, which was good.
So that was the pregame atmosphere. And as I was walking through that, you see that there was a sign. I'll rewind this, but you're walking into Camden there, and there is a stand with the name Damon's Snacks, which is literally yards away from the entrance to Camden Yards. So if there's any more DA show connection to Baltimore that you can get, Damon's Snacks, you can see there, sells hot dogs for $3, jumbo dogs for $5, and the rest of the line you can read there. But Damon's, you just turn the camera to your left, and there you are at Camden Yards. So that's how the pregame started. And you get in, and we were sitting at these beautiful seats with me and my brother. It was a great time, great Friday night. And you get to go down to the right field deck there as well, where all the youngins were as well. And then I'll stop it here for one of my favorite pictures of the show that I needed to get on here, because you make a trip to right behind that right field deck, and that Orioles Hall of Fame is just smacking you right in the face. And he has his own row, a Mo's row, if you will. And Mo Gaba, fan, is sitting right there at the Orioles Hall of Fame. And I had to wear my momentous T-shirt to the game on Friday, and it was just a great reminder, man, that he's looking up over us, and his bobblehead is with us tonight, and the magic of Charm City is really with us tonight on Watch Daily Live.
Well done, brother. Well done. That is so cool. Love seeing you in that T-shirt. Love that you got to go see Mo's plaque. If anybody goes out there to Camden Yards, it's in center field where the Orioles Hall of Fame is, and there it is. Mo has his own plaque over there. It is special stuff. So that is really cool, man. What a great Friday night. And had you ever been to Camden Yards before?
I had not. My brother stays in Fells Point, so here's some B-roll of the water, and this is just a couple blocks from the place, and it has its origins as a maritime community. And so we've been down to the city a couple times, but never an Orioles game. Got to get some golf in as well, and had to drink some National Bohemian as well.
Yeah, Natty Bo
with our rooftop. So that was the crash course of the Baltimore experience.
Love it. That is cool. What a great weekend. That looked awesome. And yeah, the first time I was at Camden Yards was 4 years ago now or so, 5 years ago. And I can't believe it took me that long to get down there, but man, it is everything that you ever heard about and more. And now that the Orioles are really good, those games in October are going to be sick. And if I can ever get to one of those playoff games this year, next year, something like that, I'm going to make it happen, because I love Camden. I love Orioles fans, and I love this O's team. It's so much fun, and they're going to be good for a long time. So, all right on. Cool. Aiden, hooking you up with the Baltimore tour. And before you get out of town, you got to actually go by Moist Pork's place and just knock on the door and say hello, deliver him his mail.
He's very upset in the chat that I didn't give him a notice. And I think I'm going to hear from this for a while. Excuse me, Aiden is in Baltimore. Thanks for telling me. Kristen wrote in, new segment idea. Where in the world's the Marquette Marvel? Am I wearing my brother's T-shirt? No. What mascot's the Greyhounds? That's Loyola, Maryland. Did I boil a folding table? No, we'll leave that for Pat. And there was one more I wanted to read. And, GG, I went to an O's playoff game as a visiting fan, and we lost. I heard it for sure. My Red Sox did win the night I was there, 12-10 on Friday, and they're climbing their way up in the standing.
Oh, you caught a good game, too, 12-10. Wow, fireworks.
And that leads us right into a couple of, I know we got super with Bob, so I got 3 Q&As left to end the night. And I figured that along with 98.5 The Sports Hub stories and Mothership Origins, this would be a great one to answer. And Wallace, he's what's the word I'm looking for? But he just really wants to learn a lot about the mothership and the history. And he writes, if you do any Q&A, I'd love to know the inspiration behind your closing phrase, be good and be good to one another. So I'll just let you take it away.
You know, I always felt like there was something positive I wanted to end the show with, and I never quite knew what the right thing to say was, something that kind of brought it all just to fruition. But I always liked the phrase "be good." My dad says that a lot, like, saying goodbye to someone. Hey, be good, be good, be good. And that's a phrase that's popular. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting way to put it. Be good. You should be good. By the way, there's Popo behind Aiden at his brother's place there. So Fells Point's got some action going on. I always thought that was just a cool, refrain. Be good. And I always liked the word good. I think good obviously conjures up positive feelings, but good just is short and punchy and powerful. Good. Something's good. That guy is good. This is good. Good day. And I just thought, be good. But I always believed in the golden rule. You try to do unto others as you'd have done to you. So I thought, be good and be good to one another was a proper way to send off every day, because I just believe, even if I'm not always perfect at it, to try to treat people well. So I know the D-aliens care about, being positive people. And I just kind of came up with that and thought that's a good way to bring it back full circle and just put a bow at the end of the show of, hey, we'll see ya. That's the be good part, but also be good literally. Be good to other people. Try to be good to other people, and it'll come back to you. That that transfer of energy, of positivity. What goes around comes around. So that's kind of how it came to be, and I'm happy that that's now become a signature of the show, because I think it's important that we all try to be good to each other until we see you next time, and then next time we'll do it again. So there you go.
And people already in the chat are loving the explanation. So I know they appreciate it. And a couple other special ones, 2 more to cap off the night. I'll save the best for last here, and I hopefully anybody gets upset about my order. But checking in with Daly, who's been active on the chat tonight. I like that everyone's slightly upset about DA's hair. And I just got to say, my man, I wouldn't be doing my job as executive producer if I didn't point out that during the Parsons interview, there was a little strand again. And the section just goes on fire, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I thought my hair looked good tonight. What am I missing here? Is it out of place? I don't know.
I think if you tilt your head up a little, you'll see it.
Oh, yeah. There you
go.
You're right. Wow. Look, it's funny. I was growing my hair out for a while during the summer. I was like, I'm just not going to bother getting it cut. It's the summer, no big deal. And then it got kind of raggedy around the bottom and the sides. It started to look really shaggy. And this weekend we were going away for my anniversary. And I was like, let me clean this up. So I got a haircut on Wednesday. And so now it's clean. But I try to do that sharp part, and because it's, I don't know, because it's tight, you can't get away with a flying hair. So look at that. And the more that I try, the more that it's a disaster. So who cares?
Daly admittedly said he hasn't checked in to the chat in a while, and I thought that this was the perfect microcosm of checking into the chat for a first time in a while, and all the chat reads is about DA's hair. Nothing about our content. Everything we work on. It's all about DA's hair. And that's the biggest thing that comes up on the chat.
Yeah, it should be noted that the best part of this show to me is that it is truly live every single week. And we put a lot of work into making it structured and tight and smart and good. And then, all hell breaks loose. Like, Rosie hops up on my lap on my desk in the middle of the Bob Parsons interview. The guy is the 314th most wealthy man in the world. There is a list of 300 and only 13 people in the world wealthier than he is. As we're doing the interview, Rosie hops up on my lap, and Bob says, basically, is that Rosie in your lap? Or are you just happy to see me? I mean, he's I thought your pants were unzippered is what he said. Great. Nice. Also, like, I could do my hair, get my hair cut, all this stuff, but there's a flyaway hair. I look stupid. And then that just takes over the entire chat. Of course, it happens every single week for some reason. And you guys can't see it, but this part of my hair is a cowlick. And I can't fix it. Every single hairdresser's like, there's no way to cut around it. It's just that this back part of your hair falls improperly. It just like goes against the grain. It's just like sticks up over here. It's like alfalfa. And so I can comb it. I can put mousse in it. I can put gel in it. I can put product in it. It does not matter. It's just going to do whatever it wants. So if it's tight up here and something goes awry, it's going to go haywire. So this is just this show in a nutshell. You cannot, whatever you try to do, it's going to blow up in your face anyway. So just, you got to know that you got to have a good sense of humor about things, and just know it's going to be a disaster at some point.
And just finish the show with the strand. It's going to be fine, people, because we only have one Q&A left before we get out of here. Our good friend Mike Ruick, aka Upside Down Mike, wrote that the Upside Downs have a new family member, Mackenzie Ruick, born Friday, 10:08 a.m. Congrats, Upside Down Mike.
Upside Down Mikey, who is a proud dad already, and his family now grows. Mackenzie Poppy Ruick, Upside Down Mackenzie. All right. Congratulations. That is happy. That is happy, happy days. That's really cool. Very cool, Upside Down Mike. Mike is a good dude. He's been part of the family for a long time. He was a friend of Mraz's, a neighbor of Mraz's. Then I got to meet him at a block party years ago. I slept on his couch. No, maybe I slept in his guest bed. Yeah, I slept in his guest room. I used a toothbrush at his house. New one. His wife had a new one for me. But good dude. He's come down to the Sirius XM studios to visit. That was on St. Patty's Day this year. He came down. So that is cool. Congratulations. Whoop, 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 whoop. Maggie. Upside Down Mackenzie. Born on Friday. Congratulations, brother. That is awesome. All right, we wrap up with an edition of Sports Zen here, everybody. Sports Zen. And we got to go back to 1980. Yesterday, 1980, George Brett went 4 for 4 against the Toronto Blue Jays to raise his average to 401. He would flirt with 400 for the entire rest of the season. He would finish 1980 with the American League MVP, the pennant, as he led the Royals to their first World Series ever, although they lost in the World Series to Mike Schmidt, Pete Rose, and the Philadelphia Phillies that year. But he would hit 390, and that was the closest anybody came to 400 since Ted Williams' 401. But I just thought this was so cool. Basically, this weekend in 1980, George Brett went 4 for 4 to raise his average to 406, I think. 401? 406. Yeah, I think it was 401. And then it would be up to 406, I believe, sometime in early September, where ultimately he would fade to only 390, air quotes, only 390. But how cool is that picture? Young George Brett. He's got some chew in his mouth. He's raising that Royals helmet, batting helmet, after going 4 for 4, getting a standing ovation from the Kauffman Stadium crowd, probably Royal Stadium back at that point in time. And then you see just the edge of the waterfalls, upper left-hand corner there, and the grass hill behind in center field. I mean, I just think that moment is so cool. That era is so cool, and George Brett is so cool. And I worked in Kansas City for 5 years back in the 2000s, and George Brett was an icon and still is the icon. He was so cool. Every time you saw him anywhere in town, you're like, man, psst, there's George Brett. And people just flocked to him. Women loved him. Men wanted his autograph. They grew up loving him, wore his jersey. Remember the good old days. And there he is, top of the world, American League MVP, going 4 for 4. Imagine having a guy batting 400 in late August heading into Labor Day. Just amazing. Daly, who has dropped into the chat today and been just on fire, right, said, this is better than any chat I've been in lately. DA is so amazing. I don't know about the amazing part, but I'm so glad that this is better than any chat you've been in lately, because this chat is on fire every single Sunday and will continue to be so coming up football season, okay? Because starting week 1 of football, be here before Sunday Night Football, where we are breaking down everything from the NFL Sunday, okay? We are all over the early games on Sunday before Sunday Night Football. Going to be squeezing it all into this show and have amazing guests lined up. So I'm telling you, subscribe to the channel right now. Make sure you're subbed here. That way you'll get notifications when we go live, so you won't forget. You'll be reminded. You'll have the link. Boom, we're going to go there. Also, tell your friends, tell your family. You got to get a part of this on Sunday nights, because even the chat's fun. Everything is fun about this show. I love doing it so much that I'm glad that you guys do as well. Tell your friends, come here Sunday nights, be one with the channel, be one with the D-Aliens, and make it part of your weekend routine. I know tonight we went long. The Bob interview, I had to make sure I got in as much with the Bob as humanly possible. We'll probably make it tighter during football season so you don't miss Sunday Night Football. So fear not. We'll make sure we're all tightened up and everything. The screws will be tightened coming up for week 1 of the NFL season. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight here on the show. As always, thanks to the Marquette Marvel, Aiden Hatton. Thanks to associate producer Ethan Frank as well. And thanks to you guys, the D-Aliens. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. When I went to see Jelly Roll yesterday and I thought about Little Mo, I know the message that Bob has out there as well. It is truly tough times will happen to everybody, but it is about appreciating the good stuff and knowing that we will get through it together. So be here. We're all in this thing together. I feel it from the bottom of my heart, and I appreciate you very much for making this part of your Sundays and your days and your weeks. It means a lot to me, and it will always mean a lot to me. Truly, 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 truly. I will see you tomorrow morning on Sirius XM, Channel 82, the DA Show with Babchick, morning 6 until 9 Eastern Time. If not, I will see you next Sunday night, everybody. All right. The digital mothership disconnects.